Hello everybody, welcome back to Operation Hats. It is the start of July 1941, and this is going to be my yearly strategy overview for Japan. It is time to get ready to go to war. So, quick overview of what's happened. These last two turns, I positioned a bunch of forces in Siam, and then I swung them over to Palau. We now have the 18th Army over here, which is 7 Marines, 10 Infantry, 1 Mountain Infantry, and pretty much the entire Japanese lead sitting off Palau with a major naval port, so we are in range of Sydney, New Zealand, Hawaii, Calcutta. Palau is way overpowered. In China, the CCP moved forward to Shanghai. I blocked them with a bunch of units. They moved back to Xinjiang, and the KMT took Zhejiang off them and seem to be hopefully moving a little further north. We're in a bit of a balancing situation here, where I've got a minimal force trying to hold Kwangtung, because if they take Kwangtung, I'm in trouble. Well, they are trying to keep me from taking Yunnan. I think they're definitely on the more secure side of the bargain here, but I'm okay with that. I can come back in a little bit once I've dealt with the Allies. So, in terms of what the Allies have been up to, the FEC has continued stacking Calcutta. They've put some troops around it to prevent a surround, but they haven't reinforced Burma. They reinforced Delhi, though they were scared of the airborne, or French Indochina, which I'm surprised at. But Malaya is stacked. I was hoping to take Malaya the first turn, but that does not look likely with all of these units here. Yeah, I think that's 8 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8 units in Malaya with the fort and the mountains. Yeesh. Yeah, that's going to take some work. But I can outbuild them long term, so we should be able to get that pretty quick. Over here, the Germans and the Soviets have just been posturing in the Middle East. Germans have built a factory to try and hold this line against the Soviets. Jinx's plan at the moment is to hold a strong defensive line along the German border. Hopefully we're looking at Leningrad this turn if possible. If that's not, because if so, it would allow him to cut off Scandinavia for a few turns and keep that secure. If not, then we'll see just an abandonment of that front, more or less, and we'll retreat down to main defensive lines at Königsberg, Warsaw, Slovakia, Central Romania, Istanbul, Syria. And meanwhile, on the other side, the Italians are doing great. The Germans haven't done much. They invaded northern England, managed to kill all 3 British fighters, but the British have very quickly resupplied 3 more. And then the landing party got lost, unfortunately, because there wasn't quite enough to defend. We thought about putting the ships in port, but we figured we'd lose an 8th that way, so it's better to keep them out. These airborne are still here, though, so those might skedaddle somewhere. This British sub hopefully is going to die soon. Otherwise, the US and American fleets have come to here, in the middle of the Atlantic. I personally don't understand this. It's not a great spot for them. Like, they can move to either the Med or Britain, but you could also accomplish that from, I don't know, Gibraltar down here. So, yeah, and because of that, leaving this area, they've left the Italians open to ski the Mediterranean. They've stacked their entire fleet in M2, and with a German scramble, sorry, not a German scramble, German ships in the area, and the British not quite as powerful as they used to be, they can hold this, most likely, because the Vichy are going to go kill the Free French ships to remove them from the equation, and the Germans and Italians are just going to sit here. You're going to retake Sardinia, and because of that, it looks very likely that the Italians are going to be able to take Gibraltar next turn. I'm going to lend lease them a transport. The Germans are going to lend lease them a transport. And yeah, that's like 4 transports in the area attacking Gibraltar, which can only have 1 more infantry added to it effectively, because we're also going to bomb the major port here, so the Allies can't go into dock, because that would be painful. So yeah, Italy is looking great. Also down here in Africa, the Africa Corps had invaded Belgian Congo. They've gotten cut off by the French. I think we're missing 1 French infantry down here somewhere. But it's going to be pretty mobile for Africa here. I'm not quite sure how Jinx is going to pull his forces out of there. He might just pull them down to South Africa, where the Italians have captured South Africa, and then Cape Town in excellent order, losing minimal casualties. that effectively leaves the Free French as the only bastion left in Africa for the Allies. And so hopefully they'll be mopped up shortly once we can actually finally knock out this dockyard in Tanganyika. I'm going to try and get a submarine over here pretty quickly to block Lend-Lease. On the way, yeah, so there's actually 2 British planes hanging out down here. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Jinx said he was going to send this over to protect a German transport. 1, 2. I'm not quite sure which one he means. Maybe this one. But Africa's looking great. Still haven't taken Aden, but we don't actually need Aden in V4. In V3 it was kind of useful because it was an FEC victory objective. Or maybe it was British. But either way, Cairo covers all the bases. And so without Cairo, Aden is completely useless to anybody. And so, yeah, that's nice. We don't know quite what the Soviets are doing here. They've kept building up. We were expecting an attack in Istanbul a bit, but I think they may have got scared off by this factory. So we'll see. They're kind of a big wild card. They got huge amounts of money in the bank. They still haven't used their cheap buy. It's looking a little scary, honestly, because we could see a massive steamroll of infantry coming this way, but they don't have improved factories yet, so they can't build as many of them close to the front as possible. Germany's actually got better reinforcement capability as long as you draw the line right around here and not somewhere up here. That's kind of the issue with the Eastern Front in V4, is the points are very much you either take them all or you don't take them all. So I need to figure out how these things work. But so you either defend this line right here, which is the Central Romania Warsaw victory point, or you come up here and you defend the German 3 cities victory point. And that's really it. There's nothing in between. Whereas in V3, all of these territories would dock points from the Soviets, so it was worthwhile to actually try and hold every bit of ground, as well as Lebensraum, given from these 3 or these 3. Like it was more. There was more options here as opposed to hold the Smolensk and hold the Warsaw, where with this is a dead zone. But yeah, so Germany, if we do adopt a defensive posture, which probably will, because it's much better to hold in the narrows here in the mountains than to try and push out too aggressively, can probably hold, especially because we can see Russian bias coming. We might see a factory railed up to southern Belarus, western Ukraine, though if the Germans don't kind of snipe them this turn, we might see miniature Barbarossa where we take western Ukraine, southern Ukraine, perhaps Lithuania. I don't think we can get to southern Belarus and stuff to slow the Russians down a little. But they've got a lot on the board, and could get a little nasty here. The British will likely be able to maintain control of the island, but they're not doing much from it. They've got a lot of militia, no real invasion force. These transports are still sitting in Canada. They've been doing nothing all game, and the factory is completely bombed out, so that's not doing anything. Italy is actually making more than Britain now, which is shocking. The U.S. seems to be coming to the rescue, though. They're moved forces down to here. I'm not quite sure why. I'm very curious about that. But they're bringing the transport from the Pacific over. They've got 4 transports in the Atlantic, lots of units. It looks like we're going to see an immediate shuck over to Gibraltar, perhaps, and then into Italy. So that might be something we need to look at here. If I attack, nope, Italy gets to attack before I do, so we're all good there. They can capture Gibraltar before the U.S. can reinforce it. Over here in the Far East, the Soviets are unfortunately a lot stronger than I would like. They've actually started hitting Mongolian recruitment rolls, and they've still got these units hanging out. I'm slowly rebuilding my strength here, but they've got these forces that could swing either way. Novosibirsk is annoying. I was actually in position to snipe Novosibirsk with 2 airborne, but they took back Xinjiang with huge amounts of force, so I don't have a landing spot anymore. So that's off the table now. Suion is actually the best spot to do it from, but it's kind of obvious because there's no other reason for your airborne to be there, and so it's easy for the Soviets to just plop 3 militia down, and you're not taking this place. But yeah, so it's a worthwhile spot to pay attention to here. Moving on to kind of the main point of this, it is Japanese strategy time. So, alright, never mind. So, Germany strategy time. Big news, we're hitting Australia. We're going to try and knock Anzac out of the war, take that victory point, secure it, and not have to look down south again. It's kind of the only major base the Allies can threaten us from this area. Calcutta is so effectively surrounded, they can't do anything. We can keep them bottled up on land. And the Americans seem to go Pacific, Atlantic. So if Japan can run wild in the Pacific for a bit, that's going to benefit us enormously. Because Anzac is really the only one that can do anything. Really, none of the Allies can do anything. They've really sacrificed any retaliatory capability in the Pacific Ocean out of fear, it appears. So, main news. These carriers, the reason I put them here is if we bring them south, 1, 2, 3, plus our surprise strike bonus, 4, 5, all 3 tactical bombers can hit Sydney. They'll get anti-aircraft shots, but with surprise strike, those will be modified down to 2. So there's only a 50% chance of even losing a plane. And even with a plane loss, I still win the battle handily. I've done the math already. With that, we have to take New Zealand to capitulate Australia. So we're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 destroyers, pick them up, and oh, you can't zoom out while you're holding something. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not needing surprise strike, we're going to drop 4 Marines off in New Zealand. This is probably the riskiest attack I've got this whole turn, because it's 4 Marines, that means 2 per island. It's mountains, so they're going to be on 1, that's even, and then I can bring in from the second fleet, which is hanging out way up here for some reason, I can bring in a battle cruiser and a heavy cruiser, or 2 heavy cruisers, 2 each, which is enough to kind of tip the odds in my favor, but it's going to be risky. We might lose one of these, and then we might not get Anzac capitulated quickly, which could hurt. But we've got to try, and if I take any more forces to New Zealand, like an extra Marine each, that unfortunately kills all the Marines that I can take into Sydney, because I have only 3 Marines left. The main 6th fleet here is going 1, 2, 3, 4 down to Sydney with those 3 Marines, and they're going to get 2 hits in the first round from the math. I need 3 Marines, just in case things go bad, because I don't want to burn too many infantry losing this. I want to be able to take this force back up next turn to New Britain to go, or well, actually I won't be able to reach New Britain because there's no major ports in this area, which is annoying, to be able to come back and strike towards Hawaii or back towards this side, whatever it's called, the Dutch, Java, Calcutta if I need to. So we'll see how that goes. Most of those forces are going here. We're probably leaving 2 transports behind for the Dutch East Indies, because the way the math works out, I kind of need 10 units if I'm sending all the planes in. So that'll be that. We're also sending these two battleships and this heavy cruiser down for the bombards, because the battleships I'd send to New Zealand, but they can't reach. They have to use the surprise strike bonus to hit Sydney, and so they're going to go there. This heavy cruiser is superfluous to this, so it's going to go hit Sydney. We'll see if we get anything out of those. Maybe half a hit is kind of what we'd expect. That then leaves these guys as my Dutch East Indies invasion force. And so they're going to come down here. I still haven't quite decided what I want to do with them. That's the tricky bit. Over here, we've got Siam. We've got the rest of the Japanese Air Force. So it's got a lot of things to do. We're going to send 1 fighter for sure up to Hong Kong. We want to take that out. We don't want to let that British reinforce it. It's an annoying thorn in our side, but it's a lot of money. So we're going to do that. We're probably going to end up sending, 2 infantry. And it's a mountain city. Yeah, it's mountain, right? Which is kind of silly because Hong Kong is quite literally built on mudflats. I don't really think you can call it a mountain city, but whatever. Some of the terrain in this game is a little weird. So we'll probably send in these 2. I might actually send in the cavalry instead. There's a decent chance of losing it, but it's not as good on defense out here. And so having a slightly better attack in there could be useful. That's probably, it would also have better retaliatory capability coming out, as opposed to just kind of getting stuck in there. The next main attack is going to be into Luzon. So I did the math. the Allies are pretty much exactly 20 IPP from bringing the US into the war. If you look at 5d12 and sum them up, the percentage of getting less than 20 is 15%. It's so low, I don't think it's even going to happen with this turn. I think it's less than 15, actually. Maybe it might be more like 7. It's horrid. So we're going to have to attack the Allies. Good news is Luzon didn't get really defended heavily. They put more into Hawaii, which I guess is fair, but Hawaii is a bit far out of the way for me. Luzon is more important. So we're going to take that. It's 3 IPP. We're going to do it with these 2 Marines up here that were acting as bait for that French submarine, which they didn't take, sadly. So they're going to come down. We'll probably invade Luzon. And good news is we can go into port there afterwards, so that submarine will be safe, because part of the issue here is my seaplane is currently on convoy defense up here. It's going to go take a pot shot at this submarine. And this one will have to be dealt with once it comes in for attacks. But it means it wasn't down here to go deal with these 2 things. So I'm going to have to send some of these forces in the way. We might have Jinx bring this submarine across, 1-2, because this coast submarine has to submerge out of the first round of combat, which means that this transport's an auto kill if you don't get hit by the 2 of the coastal sub. So that might happen, which will give me more freedom to go take out these ships, because I don't need to devote a wasted ship here. Assuming that happens, what we're probably going to see is we'll probably see 1 light cruiser and 2 torpedo destroyers sent this way, in case the submarine decides to fight. It's pretty even odds. And over here, we'll have a light cruiser and a torpedo destroyer guarding these 2 transports that we're sending down there. Because that way, in case the submarines don't fight, we can defend against the submarines when they come attacking again. It might even be worth it to keep 1 more torpedo destroyer back, just for a little bit more insurance, because it's a 5 and a 2 versus a 2 and a 3. Not great. So we might actually see this torpedo destroyer pull back, as we get a 5-2 against a 4-3, in which case they might actually fight, which is better, because we want that submarine dead. It's much better to have that submarine dead and us to maybe have lost this light cruiser than for that submarine to be alive and we have to hunt it down. So that might be what we do and try and bait it. So yeah, that's actually probably more likely. Otherwise, these submarines, raiding the British coast subs isn't really worth it anymore, but we're going to try. There's only $1 on this line anyway. So if the Germans don't hit it, we'll try it, and then we're going to block any Lend-Lease into India with these 2 seasons. It's super effective. Like, shockingly effective. Yeah. We actually might see this submarine come do it, this German one, and then I'll go kill the transport here. Be a little bit more fair about it, but we'll see. It's a little bit hard for me to get back in position if that German sub then wants to scamper off to the Atlantic. But we're going to put 2 subs here as the axis. It blocks all ports into FEC. It blocks the Chinese. It's great. So, yeah, wonderful. More Air Force attacks. We're going to send 1 guy down to Sumatra, which is going to happen with these 2 airborne in their planes. We're going to go and assault Sumatra. We thought about sending them off to, Borneo or something, but the issue there is that Borneo is unfortunately a tiny bit too far for that fighter, so it doesn't quite work. It's better to try and do Sumatra here, even though Borneo is worth more, because this fighter just can't quite reach. I wish I had a medium bomber, but I had other priorities and cost at the moment, so none of that for me. But we need to take Borneo. It's kind of the only reason taking the Dutch East Indies would be worth it for me, instead of launching a massive assault all on 1 turn. But we worked with what we got. And then the final assault, as we're not attacking Malaya, is with the last fight. There it is. I keep missing it. Into Burma. We'll probably send, 2 infantry there, just to make sure we take the Burma road. We don't want the Allies getting any more lease into the KMT. We need to strangle them and slowly outbuild them. We want Yunnan eventually, because otherwise we have to put way too much force into defending here. We'd much rather be trying for Calcutta late game, or whatever the Americans throw at us, because we might not be able to build any ground units starting soon if we have to just compete in the heavy battleship race. Finally, we're going to end up sending one guy to Annam Tonkin, one guy to Cooking China. Just take those, kill the French income, solidify our control over Southeast Asia, all except for Malaya, which we then hopefully might be able to take next turn with all these forces reconsolidating on Malaya. Might have to wait 2 turns or so. It's a big swing. It's 6-point swing of income there, and it's a pretty important straight crossing, but we'll do what we need to. Hopefully we can get it done quicker. So we'll do for that. Over here in the Dutch, the forces that are coming down at that area are, nope, not that guy, 4 infantry. Thinking those Marines are unfortunately needed elsewhere. So we'll probably drop one in West Timor, probably drop one in Celebes, and then I'm not sure how it is, because I'd like to take Borneo. It's just 2 infantry with no bombards against the militia. It's not great. It is not great. It's jungle. It's just not. I don't like it. But I really want the seaplane dead. Because it'll be a pain to hunt down otherwise. And I really want Borneo. So I could send 4 infantry in, which is a lot more secure. I'll probably almost certainly take it. But then it's even Stevens math with the allies for the Dutch East Indies. I get 6, they get 6. The Germans will get 2, so it's slightly better for us, but it's still not great, and we'll start seeing militias spring up here. Well, maybe. It goes to the UK, who is comically short on money at the moment, so we might not actually have any money to spare in the area. We'll almost certainly see the infantry walk across, though. Well, actually, no, they can't, because we'll have ships in the way. But it's not great. No matter what. Good news, these 2 are dying. So I really love to take Borneo, but I want to at least put something on Celebes or something in West Timor. But I'm just short in units. Anything I pull out of Sydney makes it a little bit less likely I can get the attack. I'd really love to see some slightly better odds here. 10 units is a lot, perhaps, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but I think I need it in case things go really south. I want that to succeed, because I want to be able to stop any counterattack, and I want to take New Zealand in the second turn if it fails. So I think the Dutch have to be sacrificed, because ultimately they're easier to take later. The other option is, of course, risking Sumatra. I can run a transport plane 1, 2, 3, take Celebes with that, put an infantry in Borneo, and then only have 1 dude in Sumatra. Then we're hoping that this militia doesn't get hit, but it's probably not unlikely that we'll be able to get in safe without any attacks. We're pretty likely to get a hit first round. It's a little risky, but it's definitely doable. Perhaps better to have the full 3 infantry here in Borneo, especially because they'll be marching across into Sarawak next turn, which, conveniently for us, is going to be very easy to reach with these fighters. So that'll be a lot more of a cakewalk. But I might do that to give me some more security here. Makes Sumatra a little riskier, but I don't know. Might be worth it. Of course, again, the British can march forces into Sumatra if we fail, but that's less than Sydney. But I would like this airbase. So, questions. It's not quite clear when you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Fortunately, without an airbase in Siam, which I can't get until I take Malaya, I can't reach 1, 2, 5. Oh no, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, yeah, still needs 5. I'm just gonna go around the backside. Can't reach Java with planes. Unless I can get my carriers in here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. I could hit it with planes because I'd be able to bring the carriers in. These planes could go 1, 2, 3. Nowhere. Yeah. And so that wouldn't be bad. Might be actually worth building carriers since I can shun down, pick up those planes, shun over, pick up these planes. we'll see. We'll have at least one carrier. But so that's what I'm looking at here. I think it's going to be best to do a single attack here. It's much a little risky, but I think we can do it. We'll get Hong Kong. Over here, it really depends what the CCP do. If the CCP look at this and say, I just want to march this entire force here. Let's reposition those. Don't know why that isn't locked. Well, we're going back to Shenxi. We're with some very quick reinforcement, some rails. We'll pulse forces off the Soviet border. And stack Shenxi, because we don't want if the CCP gets out into this line of territory, we're screwed. It's horrid. Might also be worth starting to sprinkle some militia down in the coastal regions here, just in case. But that's really a last resort. I don't really want to waste money on that if the CCP is never going to get past here. Hence the whole improved factories rolling thing I'm working on right now. Good news is Burma is going to cut over here. We're not going to move into Bengal, because the problem is this Calcutta army, if we go into Bengal, we'll go bam. And then what my goal is I want this Calcutta army, if it moves out, to be forced by some conglomeration of my ships right over here to pull back to Calcutta to defend it. Otherwise, they come up here, I take Calcutta, they can't attack me, or if they come up here, they attack Burma, I take Calcutta, and we've just traded points, and they no longer have a factory. So, that would be the goal. I could see them going for a gambit where they just punch really hard into Siam, but I think it's easier for me to take them out in here. I think it's more achievable for me, and better if I hold Calcutta, because that's a higher swing value than Siam is. So that's what we're looking at here. I'd like to keep this army neutralized, because it's kind of the biggest threat to my ambitions in the area. So that's more or less the overview of what I'd like to do this turn. Oh, forgot to mention, this guy is going to go stop them from building militia in Guam, so I can go take it and stop their victory point. And then these guys, one's probably just going to go hide out here to be annoying to that transport. And one is probably going to go head this way to go help with the submarine duties over here. But I'm not really quite sure. They were only there in case the Allies decided to keep the American fleet here, and so I could bring them up, attack the American fleet with them. I really probably should build a sub base here because they're really out of range. But they had better range. I would be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it was, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and actually help in this fight. But they're a little helpless at the moment. They were kind of a one-trick pony. So we'll see. I can always raid the Americans more. But hopefully this ends up well. With the way the Allied strategy is looking, I'm hopefully going to have a turn or two where I can run rampant. Even if they just do a complete 180 and flip their fleet around, because they've got it out in the middle of the Atlantic. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves to Hawaii for the battleships. So 4 turns before they get within, striking range, and 3 turns for the carriers. So I think I've got some space, which is helpful because that's 4 capital ships. I don't want 4 capital ships in the Pacific in 2 turns because it's going to kill my QW type bonus that I'm getting right now. So in the note of that, I'm going to come up here and we're going to quickly go over some purchase options. Once I go to war with the US, this carrier becomes unlocked for free. I'm probably going to finish this heavy cruiser. I don't think I'm going to finish this carrier. I don't have any planes to stick on it right now, and they're a bit expensive. It's better to keep it stocked in queue than build one I don't need. The planes are doing pretty good in the South China Sea area without carrier support. We might see full-on heavy battleship coming out. Unfortunately, looking at the rules, I have to declare in my combat move phase if I want to get the surprise strike, so I don't get the QW type bonus when building this, which stinks because it makes my build a lot easier. But then we also have to do the requisite Siam China stack of units that I'll pull up here to demonstrate. So it is the infantry Siam, militia Siam, militia upgrade Siam, militia and Kwangtung for some more defense there, infantry in Rihe, and then I'm sending a, what is it, no, that's an advanced submarine. I'm sending a transport to the Italians, which we're going to represent with a submarine here. because it makes my math easier. And then we'll see. That leaves me with 10 IPP left. I could build a fighter. Wouldn't be a bad option. I could also take that and build a transport with it, and then grab another infantry, and have these ready for an attack on the Soviets that I'd like to get off soon, to help the Germans. Because if I have these, I can attack Primorsk Kraï na Mur from the sea, but it's a little tricky. Fortunately, also, I can fit the math if this costs one less from key to battalion. It doesn't cost one less from key to battalion, so I can't get that second infantry, which kind of stinks. But most of this is otherwise non-negotiable. I always suppose I could just not build this heavy cruiser, but I want units on the board. So we'll see, especially because building a transport in Japan and then not having any ships escort it is just kind of making it stuck in Japan. So wouldn't be much use to me. So the other thing I could do is, instead of those, I could come down here, I could build some more planes, because you always need more planes. And I would like to fill out these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carrier slots, which would bring me up to a total of 8 carrier planes, which is one more than I have right now. And then no more carriers because they're just not cost effective as combat units. Sorry. Like, they cost too much. And planes cost too much to make them effective as combat units compared to battleships. Naval combat, naval pricing really needs a rework for V5, I guess. So, yeah, that's my stakes. Heavy battleships, way more effective than carriers. So, see how I can do that. It would be a perhaps a more combat-oriented option. But planes are generally good. But I feel the need for ground troops. I'm going to lose several this turn. I need to start replenishing them. So I also don't want to build more transports though. But you can really never have enough transports. So we might see the fighter, and then me just holding off. The downside of building this battleship is it gives an extra $1 to the Americans, which makes it even more likely they're going to come into the war. But I figure that's a conclusion anyway. I don't think it's not going to happen. So I don't think it's worth worrying over. If they don't go into war, I don't also have anything this transport can do. You know, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Starwalk, nope, because I get killed by submarines. Just drops things in Siam, I guess. Or invade Cochin China and go into port there. Or Hong Kong would kind of be the other option because you're out of range with the submarines. So, yeah, but I really want this more. I also like to go take Guam at some point to kill that American victory objective, but it's just an extra strategic move. It's not actually that helpful for them. So it's not that critical. I don't think I'll ever be able to take the Midway point because Midway, Attu, Wait, Guam, it's so hard to get that one. Midway is just impossible to hold because it's one turn from the west coast. It's unless you completely demolish the American fleet and just park here to kill any ships they might bring out. It doesn't work. And even then, they can just build up a massive stack of ships in the queue and then finish them and in port. And it's really hard. It's much harder than it was in V3 to take Midway. And even in V3, it was super hard to take Midway. You never saw anyone do it because it just wasn't worth it. It's not worth it here either. I like that we got an extra sea zone right here between the U.S. and Hawaii. We should have had one more. There should be another sea zone right here. Stopping, first of all, the Hawaii to northwest Pacific coast up here. And second of all, it should be one full move to Hawaii. Midway should be too far. Because Midway to Japan and Midway to the U.S. should be very close. It should not be within an easy transport move for either of them because just a one shuck is bad. It's better to have all the way to Hawaii, all the way forward. because there's no reinforcement bases here. It doesn't make sense. Also, it doesn't make sense that you should be able to stage from Hawaii with no port and attack the U.S. Yeah, there's a lot of stupid stuff with some of the seats and layouts here. It's been fixed, but it hasn't been fixed all the way. Alright, I think that's pretty much all. I think the build might depend on whether we see the CCP and Soviets becoming a little bit more aggressive, whether we get the infantry transport build or the fighter. We could even see no heavy battleship, which would give me more options, but I really want to get that ship built. It's too useful. I want stuff on the queue so I can keep Kutubutai going against the Americans if they decide to send all their capital ships across. So, see how it goes. Hopefully by my next turn, or the next time you get a strategy video, there will be no more Australia, and I will have most of the Pacific. But we'll have to see. That's all for me, and hopefully Jinx's turn will be up soon, starting off this new round. Thanks for watching. Goodbye now.